In this series, we will be reading the lore text about the Age of Sigmar, the setting from the Soulbound RPG Corebook. This episode covers the spread of civilization and life in the realms. The spread of civilization. The armies of Sigmar stride forth through the gates of Azir, striking out at all those who would seek to enslave the lower realms. The Stormcast Eternals spearhead this assault, targeting key locations such as realm gates and claiming them in Sigmar's name. With a combination of divine might, peerless strategy, and ruthless practicality, they drive back enemy forces and erect stormkeeps, the first defenses in their newly claimed territories. The forces of the Free Peoples follow in their wake, raising their cities around the Stormkeep, the better to hold what the Stormcasts have taken. Duardin labor clans raise walls and set foundations, as the engineering guilds of the Ironweld expand the defenses. Entrepreneurs and merchants are the next to arrive. Forests are harvested and precious minerals gouged from the earth, as more esoteric resources are exploited by those with the wherewithal to do so. As these bastions grow, adventurers and fortune hunters flock to the region, further expanding the reach of civilization. And so, step by step, the land is reclaimed. Free cities. During the Realm Gate Wars, Sigmar's first strike was directed at the gates of Azir, the most vital of those realm gates, connecting Azir to the lower realms. Sealed by Sigmar long ago in order to preserve Azir from the depredations of chaos, these realm gates were to be his beachhead. At great cost, the Stormcast Eternals managed to wrest control of these realm gates, and hundreds more from the forces of chaos, hordes of Aurochs, and the silent legions of the dead. The victorious Stormcasts erected their stormkeeps around these reclaimed gates, so that those who followed would be protected from the horrors of the realms. Colonists are sent from Azir to take their places within the swiftly expanding defenses and work the fields of these rough and ready frontier settlements. As the years pass, what were once small settlements become cities of great size and grandeur. Of all the cities of the realms, the so-called free cities, the cities of Sigmar, number among the most magnificent, as well as the most important. The largest of their number is Hammer Hall, the twin-tailed city, which stretches between Akshi and Giron. Every day hundreds of thousands of travelers, traders, and pilgrims pass through these cities' realm gates. The realm gates alone provide the means of transporting the sheer amount of resources required to wage a war across countless lands in multiple realms. Tens of thousands of troops and the supplies necessary to provide for them in the field travel via realm gates every hour of every day, moving from one theater of war to the next. The founding of a new city. The cities of the realms come in all shapes and sizes, from Akshian mountain citadels like Tempest's Eye to the haunting grandeur of the Phoenicium in Giron. But the free cities founded in the wake of the Realm Gate Wars follow a pattern all their own, one devised by Azir's greatest architects and engineers. The founding of such a city often takes decades, if not longer, and requires the efforts of generations. This arduous process begins with the Stormcast Eternals and the fortresses they build around a newly liberated realm gate. These stormkeeps are as varied as the warriors who construct them. Some are towering edifices, wreathed in lightning. Others are solid bastions, hidden behind screens of mystic flame. Whatever form they take, the stormkeeps are the seed from which a city will eventually spring. Once the stormkeep has been erected, further defenses are constructed, wooden palisades or earthen emplacements, by the newly arrived engineers of the Ironweld, as well as the soldiers of the Free Guild regiments. These defenses will be tested often in the months that follow, and will be reinforced as needed. With the defenses up, the lands must be sanctified before the roots of the city can be laid. The devoted of Sigmar begin to cleanse the lands of the taint of chaos and undeath. Priests call out prayers to Sigmar as great lines of zealous flagellants lash themselves with barbed flails, their faithful blood seeping into the earth and burning away the taint of chaos. Any lingering taint is purified by agents of the collegiate arcane and the Stormcast sacrosanct chambers. When the land has been sanctified, clearance is the next step. Trees are felled in their hundreds to make room for tents and barracks halls. Dams are built, irrigation trenches dug, and the ground is tilled and made ready for crops to be planted. With the defenses in place and the ground cleared and sanctified, the foundations for the city can begin to be laid. This task falls to the hardy Duardin labor clans, who are the next to arrive. Ironweld engineers and dispossessed begin construction of the city, often laying the foundations in the shape of a 12-pointed star in honor of the God King. Sluices of starwater, blessed metals, and even realmstone are channeled through the outer walls to provide protection against demonic and ethereal incursion. In a matter of months, the first stages of the city begin to take shape. Walls rise in concentric rings, spreading outwards from the Stormkeep. The first streets soon follow, wide thoroughfares, lined by statues of great heroes. Into this empty shell of stone and wood flow the first generation of settlers. Most hail from Azir, but others may be from among the so-called reclaimed, those native peoples who have remained free of the taint of chaos. In time, the streets ring with the sounds of new industry. As its population increases, more ground is cleared and sanctified, and new walls raised. Inevitably, the demands of the population outstrip the city's resources. Slums gather along the outer walls like barnacles on the hull of a ship. These rookeries are protected by crude palisades and makeshift walls, raised by local magnates, or even the secret masters of the city's growing criminal syndicates. Another byproduct of a swelling population. Lost gates. While Sigmar's servants have found and claimed many realm gates, many more remain lost. Far too many of these have been tainted by the touch of chaos, twisted into nightmare portals of squirming flesh, or gnashing fangs, or perhaps worse, showing no outward signs of corruption at all. It is given over to the Stormcast Eternals to see to the cleansing or sealing of these tainted gates before they can spew forth horrors undreamt. But while many are corrupted, Others are simply missing, destroyed in some ancient cataclysm, perhaps, or hidden for dark purposes. The great fray of beastmen known as the Darkwalkers are said to have secreted countless realm gates for their own twisted purposes, and will lead chaos forces through them when their sinister demands are met. Sigmar has dispatched entire armies to locate key missing gates, but the God King is not alone in his quest. When word of a lost gate's possible location reaches them, organizations such as the Collegiate Arcane or the Order of Azir hire explorers and adventurers to seek them out, hoping to exploit the realm gates for their own ends. Malign forces also seek lost realm gates. The secretive Arcanite cults often employ catspaws to lay claim to rediscovered realm gates for Tzeentch's glory. And the Mordark of Blood Neferata has agents who are constantly on the hunt for such undiscovered pathways. Regardless of the nature of the hunters, when a realm gate is discovered, gods and mortals alike race to lay claim to it. The Necroquake. The Necroquake was a cataclysmic event that devastated the mortal realms and was the culmination of millennia of planning by Nagash. During the Age of Myth, Nagash foresaw the betrayal by the other gods as they extracted a levy of souls. Souls he believed were rightfully his as the ruler of Shyish. The undying king set a plan in motion. For century upon century, he sent countless undead servants to extract single grains of gravesand, the realmstone of Shyish, and return it to him and his great black pyramid in Nagashazar. Using this monumental magical force, Nagash planned to take control of Shyish utterly, revering the flow of magic to the center of the realm, to him. From there, he would conquer all life in the realms. By the time the other gods realized what was happening, it was almost too late. The gods of order and chaos alike sent armies and servants to disrupt Nagash's plans, but all failed. It was a group of Skaven, lost and trapped in the pyramid, that inadvertently altered Nagash's grand spell. These creatures, a speck of chaos amongst a maelstrom of death magic, altered the outcome. The tidal wave of magic proved too much for even Nagash to contain. And this fell power erupted like a shock wave across the mortal realms. No realm, city, or people was left unaffected. Countless dead rose from their graves, reaping vengeance on the living as great gales of spirits, geists, and banshees decimated the mortal realms in a night that would never be forgotten. The flow of magic was forever changed as sorcerers and spellcasters across the realms were consumed by the torrent of unrestrained magical energy. Terrifying living spells stalked the lands, turning people to ash and twisting the landscape in unnatural ways. The Necroquake devastated an already weakened people. Entire cities were lost, and those who remain must now try to survive in a world overrun by chaos and death. Life in the realms. Life in the realms is exceedingly diverse. Each is home to innumerable species, some of which are unique to the realm in question and found nowhere else in all of the cosmos. Others are found in every realm, without fail rats, for instance. Regardless, all are adapted to thrive in their particular environment. This adaptation might take the form of a change in hue, like the pallid coloration of the bone blossoms of southern Shaiish, or as complex as a specialized diet, as in the case of the ether eaters of Chaman. Sometimes, however, it results in something monstrous, the great worms of Gur, or the blazing magmadroths of Akshi, for instance. This variance affects more than just flora and fauna. The realms are home to many different cultures, each greatly influenced by the realm of its birth. Tragically, countless more were lost forever during the Age of Chaos, leaving only traces behind, if even that. Only the strongest and farthest reaching cultures, such as the mighty amethyst princedoms of Shaiish, who once had an empire that stretched between realms through their well-defended penultima realm gate network, managed to survive, though often greatly diminished, to the Age of Sigmar. Other surviving cultures from before the Age of Chaos were originally isolated ones, skilled at resisting invaders, or they transformed themselves entirely during the Dark Years to survive the onslaught of the ruinous powers. Such people took up nomadic lifestyles in order to preserve something of their old ways and the lives of their people. In Akshi, for instance, the ancient kingdom of Caldera dissolved into the fierce tribes that now occupy the Fellstone Plains. Unsurprisingly, many cultures in the Age of Sigmar worship, or at least give homage to, the God King. Daily life. Daily lives in the realms are as varied as their peoples. There are commonalities, of course, especially amongst settled populations. Crops must be planted and harvested, bread must be made, streets patrolled, defenses repaired, and so on. However, each realm poses its own unique challenges. In Giron, for instance, due to feral vegetation, it is all but impossible to clear the land for any length of time, making it difficult to plant crops. But when it is managed, such as through funneling molten lava from Akshi to burn away the vegetation, such fields inevitably yield far greater returns. Conversely, Shaish's soil is all but leached of nutrients, necessitating the cultivation of hardier, if somewhat tasteless strains of fruits and vegetables. Fishing and hunting are more common in Gur and Akshi, where animal life is plentiful, but the ground is harsh and unyielding. Chaman's mineral-rich soil produces strange varieties of vegetation, much of which is edible if properly prepared, but its animals are often toxic for anyone not native to the realm. Other factors add to the difficulties of the common folk. The weather of Giron is fairly seasonal, but then the seasons of the realm of life are myriad and vary greatly even between neighboring lands. The weather of Gur is prone to shifting swiftly, with little warning, from light rain to heavy downpours. Massive dust storms, and worse, firestorms, often sweep the plains of Akshi. Acidic rains test the ingenuity of Chaman's inhabitants, and the bone-shard hail of Shaiish can shred the soft flesh of the living in moments. Wildlife is another issue, no more so than in Gur. The realm of beasts is home to some of the most dangerous predators in all of the realms, each fighting and evolving to ensure they are not at the bottom of the food chain, to say nothing of the land itself, which is equally voracious. Travel, too, is an often deadly undertaking in the mortal realms. Due to the sheer size and scope of the realms, realm gates are considered the most effective means of long-distance travel, but are often strictly controlled by the Stormcast Eternals. The average inhabitant of Hammer Hall may spend their entire life in the shadow of the great Stormrift Realm Gate and never step through it. Journeying overland is the only choice for those who wish for a life beyond the walls of one of the great cities of Sigmar. Such ventures, however, often come to a swift and bloody end. The mortal realms are not a place for idle exploration. To travel by foot is to invite almost certain death. Instead, air travel is favored anywhere it is available and can be afforded. In most major cities, berths aboard Caradron vessels or private ethercraft can be had for the right price, though the skies of the realms can often be as dangerous as travel by land. There is something to be said for the comfort of traveling on a ship loaded up with half a dozen ether-shot carbines. Similarly, one can seek passage aboard more mundane ships if you are willing to risk the dangers of the sea, whether that be the firestorms and boiling waters of Akshi, the hungry monsters that stalk Gur's oceans, or the fleets of pirates that haunt the coasts of Jiran and Chaman. Despite these difficulties, trade has slowly returned both within and between the realms. Canny merchants often pool resources in order to fund overland caravans escorted by dozens of Duarden fire slayers, or hire fleets to carry their goods from one market or port to another. Certain mercantile dynasties are known to conceal relatively safe routes of travel for their own benefit, and daring trade pioneers continually seek out new opportunities, better trade routes, and hidden realm gates. Work beyond the vast reaches of the realms controlled by the savage forces of chaos. The majority of each realm's settled population live in a city, with a few brave souls residing in one of the new frontier settlements. On the coasts, these settlements often take the form of fishing villages or harbor towns, where the inhabitants bring in nets of fish, eels, and other aquatic creatures, or else provide transport upriver for cargo and passengers. Further inland, the settlements might be logging camps or mining towns, where the inhabitants clear-cut forests, quarry stone, or dig for mineral resources. Such settlements exist in a state of near constant danger, and all do their best to arrange the best security they can afford. For some, this involves hiring a small free guild or other mercenary force. Those with sufficiently valuable resources may enter into an arrangement with a fire slayer lodge or a trading contract with the Caradron, who will forcefully protect their investments, though the wise read the fine print on such contracts carefully. Those that cannot afford any protection do not fare well when the cannibal raiders and voracious beasts that roam the mortal realms come calling. farming, and herding occur in the majority of settlements, but strictly agrarian communities tend to exist only in the more settled regions of the realms, usually within 1 to 2 days' travel of the nearest city or major outpost. Farms such as these feed the cities and can expect protection should trouble loom. The settlements most vital to the free cities are frequently protected by a large free guild or one of the great armored cogforts of the Ironweld arsenal and its detachment of troops. The actual output of such settlements varies greatly across the mortal realms. In parts of Chaman, oxide hunting is a lucrative business, especially in the shade towns of Audren's Swarf Isles. In the Axian lands of the Great Parch, sulfur mining and obsidian gathering is more common, especially in areas of high volcanic activity. On the frontiers of Gur, hunter enclaves are common, as the pelts, teeth, bones, and meat of the great herds of the grasslands, like the amber steppes, or the curious beasts of the gnarlwood fetch good value in cities like Excelsis or Lentok. Such communities are also common in Chamon's southern reaches, where gigantic pherosaurs are hunted for their polychromatic hides. In the cities, there is much the same diversity. While shops, taverns, and hostelries are ubiquitous, certain cities have their own character. In Excelsis, for instance, the collecting and selling of prophecies is considered a respectable profession. In the floating city of Batar, night soil collectors find themselves in high demand, as the city's aerial gardens require a constant supply of compost. The bustling industry of the Caradron's skyports are widely famed, with everyone engaged in all manners of profitable business, from sky fishing to mercenary work to beardwax oil manufacturers. Entertainment, despite the hardships, or perhaps because of them, the people of the realms find time to live. Companionship and laughter defend the soul against the taint of corruption as much as a shield turns aside an axe. There are taverns and gambling dens in most sizable settlements, as well as houses of ill repute and fighting arenas. The bawdy houses of Excelsis and Hammer Hall Aksha are infamous throughout the realms, as are the many Duardin-owned taverns of Greywater Fastness. In Tempest's Eye, aerial racing and archery contests are popular entertainments, while playful singing competitions are prevalent throughout the villages and townships of the Jade Kingdoms. Playhouses and public theaters, like the Silver Drake in Vindicarum or the Court of Knaves in Anvilgard, are famous for the skill and wit of their performers. Elsewhere, troops of entertainers, including actors, singers, acrobats, and animal trainers, brave the dangers of the realms to travel between villages and towns. The most famous of these nomadic groups include Lord Hardwick's Men, which boasts an impressive array of Azurite beasts, and the Red Sisters, who are known throughout the realms for their acrobatic feats. In Giron, the wanderers known as the Ease bring with them dancing bears and performing gearlions as they travel ancient hidden paths in their covered wagons. In Akshi, the bardic journeymen of the Hotspur Guild dare to travel the Great Parch, bringing news and songs to whatever settlements they pass through. So too do Shaish's Zerk nomads, who will tell fortunes to any who cross their palms with silver. In the cities, there are also other, more exotic entertainments available. Light weavers of Hish craft intricate works of art with an assemblage of cleverly designed mirrors for their audiences, while monks of the Flickering Fists will occasionally give public exhibitions of their skills on the streets of Lumnose and Steel Spike. Elven shadow dancers deliver seductive or terrifying routines at private performances for the wealthy. In the dream dens of Batar, one can buy the imaginings of strangers to enjoy for a night. Survival. The people of the realms have had to continuously adapt to deal with the many threats they face. Day-to-day survival is difficult, even in the most civilized regions. Settlements and cities alike require stable ground, steady supplies of food and water, high walls, and trained defenders, at the very least. Lack of even one of those things can lead to the demise of an entire town. The wilderness beyond the walls is full of dangers. In the wake of the necroquake, predatory spells endanger the lives of any who cross their path. Monstrous beasts like gargants and mawkrushes, as well as chaos-touched creatures such as spheranks and jabberslides, roam the forests and hills in ever-increasing numbers, to say nothing of the hordes of beastmen that prowl the wilds. Firestorms and searing winds are regular occurrences in Akshi, while acidic rains and poisonous fogbanks are common sights in Chaman. In Jiran, the vegetation grows so swift and thick that whole villages can vanish overnight, their sleeping inhabitants smothered by creeping stranglers or suffocated in dense clouds of pollen. In Gur, the earth bucks and heaves like a wild beast, and savage storms lash the coasts. And in Shaish, eerie winds carry away the souls of the unwary. In addition to the wildlife and the weather, rampaging hordes of aurochs and ogres are irresistibly drawn to cities, as are the servants of the dark gods. Armies of bloodbound and rotbringers raise settlements and enslave entire populaces. Secretive cults devoted to Tzeentch or Slaanesh weaken the populations of the free cities from within, as the machinations of the verminous Skaven undermine even the largest settlements, as the effects of the necroquake continue to reverberate through the fabric of reality. Vast numbers of spirits and restless corpses have begun stalking the realms. Those who do not maintain a constant vigil do not long survive the dangers of the mortal realms. Sustenance. Food is a necessity, regardless of where one is in the realms. Access to potential farmland and thriving populations of wild game, as well as a source of drinkable water, are important factors in determining the site of new settlements. When a city is built, its walls often encompass some form of farmland, whether it be communal vegetable allotments, orchards of native fruit, or, as in the case of cities like Glimsforge, access to a lake full of fish. As the city expands, so too do the demands of the growing population. Any patch of fertile soil is soon given over to some form of food production. Native varieties of wheat, corn, rice, potatoes, and others. Cities such as Hammer Hall possess substantial farming suburbs and conurbations, commonly enclosed within the outermost walls. These local resources are frequently supplemented by trade. Caradron Ethercraft bring loads of grain daily to cities such as Anvilgard and Tempest's Eye. The mercantile conclaves of Hammer Hall ship foodstuffs from one of the city's realms to the other, as well as throughout the Great Parch. Axian delicacies, such as salamander meat, are in great demand in the Jade Kingdoms, and the spice trade between Giron, Akshi, and Chaman is lucrative, with baskets of dawn spice, daggerbite, and powdered Geist chilies appearing in larger markets with regularity. Outside of the free cities, life is far more difficult. The many dangers of the wilderness ensure that successfully hunting meat or bringing in a harvest is arduous at the best of times. In Gur, that which you intend to hunt for food may well hunt you in turn. Even in bountiful Giron, where food is usually plentiful, you must be wary of even the most delicious appearing fruit, for it may have been contaminated by the plague god. Many new settlements start out barely at subsistence level and often need to import goods for a time to become self-sustaining, if they survive that long. Fishing villages can be found along the coasts, the shores of lakes, and along some major rivers, but a variety of deadly predators hunt along the shorelines as well. While isolated farmsteads are not unheard of, most are clumped together for protection, as well as to share the workload. Harvests will be gathered for sale or taken to grist mills. Markets are held weekly in the larger villages and towns, and it is to these that traders in rarer foodstuffs, including salt, some spices, dried meats, and alcohol, flock. Safety. The realms are a deadly place, even at the best of times. Free Guild units bolstered by heavily armed Ironweld engineers make weekly trips between settlements immediately outlying the cities, providing relative protection to those foolhardy enough to travel. The seas about many city ports are watched by scourge privateers, who collect a hefty bounty on every sea beast or pirate they slay. Professional spell hunters stalk and capture the predatory magics that rampage across the landscape, often collecting their fees from the realmstone remains that such magics leave behind. Stout walls, whether in the form of palisades or stone ramparts, are the most common method of defense for the majority of cities and towns. While the larger cities might have artillery emplacements manned by Ironweld gunners to defend the walls, smaller settlements often try to make do with volunteers skilled in archery. If they survive long enough, they frequently learn it is better to pay the price for Ironweld weaponry and training. Free Guild regiments are often employed as de facto police forces by the conclaves of Sigmar cities and many small settlements. The Free Guilds regularly rotate their troops from those serving in active battle fronts to serve in the city's garrisons to act as city watch. Such troops tend to be a combination of new recruits and older, tired veterans, alongside those who have suffered a debilitating injury but are capable of recovery. They aren't elite soldiers, but they are armed and fairly well trained, which counts for much. Cities such as Greywater Fastness and Hammer Hall also commonly employ sellswords and convicts to act as underjacks. Underjacks are often the first line of defense, or at the very least, an early warning system against creeping threats from below, such as grot infestations or skaven swarms. So too, there are the pyre gangs, who see to the quarantining and elimination of deadwalker epidemics that have arisen in the wake of the necroquake. These groups are often accompanied by warrior priests, professional exorcists, and geist breakers, who are skilled at banishing the restless dead. The great free cities often have one or more stormkeeps, and can draw on the forces of the Stormcast Eternals when things are truly desperate. However, Sigmar's forces are often stretched thin and cannot always respond as quickly as one might think. Such organizations are rare outside the cities, however, and the smaller towns and villages of the realms must make do with volunteers or contracted specialists. Most famed of all mercenary defenders are the fire slayers, but they do not come cheap, and few small settlements can afford them for more than a specific limited engagement, such as to wipe out troublesome bandits, for instance. Help also comes from adventurers, or their representatives, who can be found in many a watering hole and tavern. One such group are the so-called Hawthorns, a loose network of professional killers with a talent for rooting out and dispatching soul-blight vampires. Other such organizations include the Black Pipers, a guild of freelance underjacks who specialize in the elimination of skaven infestations, and the Folly, a traveling theater troupe of elven acrobats and singers who are experienced in exposing the activities of Slaneshi cults. Aspiring wizards of the collegiate arcane are often employed by wealthy townships to see to their magical defenses, as are Duardin runesmiths and elven mages. Many new enchantments have recently been introduced throughout the realms to help ward against the undead. With such defenses in place, the inhabitants of the cities and towns turn their attention to the day-to-day business of staying fed and keeping alive. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this audio journey into the world of the Age of Sigmar. In our next episode, we will cover the overview of the first 5 realms,